Hello, darlings, and welcome to Front Porch Feelings.
And hello from over on this side.
This is season 3, episode 3. We titled this, I'm Not Okay with This.
A beginner's guide to empty nesting.
Now, I have been simultaneously dreading this and also excited to talk about it.
The episode or the whole?
Yes. The whole process, doing it for a podcast, having to kind of lay my own feelings out. When I started Front Porch Feelings, I did this on the front porch of the pink house, sometimes on the back porch, sometimes in my car, just depending.
And most often it was in the moment
Mm-hmm.
at like something had happened right
Yes.
then. You're feeling it. There are your thoughts. Lay them out.
Exactly. And furthermore, it was a lot of the really difficult things.
Right.
A lot of things people weren't talking about. I've actually considered bringing all those back and doing a whole playlist of what I would call the archives.
Ooh,
because
the greatest hits of feelings.
the greatest hits / the worst times. And I prided myself on talking about the stuff nobody was talking about and talking about the really hard stuff. And I always went back to, you know what, this is my front porch. If you don't want to hear about it, you don't have to hear about it. But there are people out there that need to hear it. And the first couple podcasts we've done this year so far have been, I think, thoughtful and helpful. I don't try to put anything out into the world that's just fluff.
Right. We were actually just talking about this at lunch, that I told you I'm really proud of you and that I like that you talk about real comments, real topics that you have deep feelings for. It's not filler.
That. It's not filler. And, we were very thoughtful about what topics we chose to discuss. And they were not just about us, but about the people that we know and the people we interact with. This one makes me feel like I'm back in the old days a little bit, though. This one is one of those ones that it hits so close to home and not really in a super fun way.
Right.
And so let's just, shall we? We'll just get into it.
Empty nesting. What is empty nesting?
Empty, stinking nested.
There used to be a sitcom in the 90s called Empty Nest. Did you realize that?
No, I didn't. Was it a good one? There's sort of.
Was, I want to say he was a pediatrician or a veterinarian or something. The main character. Yeah, it was Empty Nest. The chapter, the next chapter of life.
Maybe I need to go watch it. I'm not sure. So normally what we do to prepare for these is I do a little bit of research. You do a little bit of research. We try to come at these podcasts from different angles than just this is what's in our own heads right now.
Right.
In this particular case, we really haven't discussed this. You were doing a task and I was just jotting down notes on my phone. So I have my phone and I'm just sort of going to rattle it off and you're going to contribute wherever you see fit.
Yeah.
So the top 5 things I think about, the top 5 things just sort of happen naturally.
Okay.
When I think about empty nesting, number 1, every family is totally different than the others.
Yes.
Number 2, this is a big deal. This is a very big deal.
It's a major change in everybody's life.
Number 3, people handle it differently. And that is the adults involved, the kids involved, the siblings of the kids, next door to the same box of a family, the mom, the dad, the boy, the girl, the dog, whatever. The kids play soccer together. Y'all go to the same Bible study, whatever. Even if that's the case, your families are completely different. So this is something that I sort of feel like I have struggled with my entire life as a parent, which has been my entire adult life. I was always a little bit of a misfit. You and I have spoken about this many times. I don't know if I've ever talked about it out loud, not to any extent, but I was a youngish parent and I never had anything in common with the other parents my children's ages.
Right. I mean, you moved out into adulthood at 18.
Yes.
Right at 18.
Yes. And I actually graduated high school 6 months early. So I was like, rock and roll,
I turned 18
and dipped.
a little over a month before I graduated high school. At high school graduation, I asked my Army recruiter if I could leave basic training that night. He said, no, there's
said,
a
"Wait till
schedule.
next."
That's not how that works.
I was not like trying. Well, I don't want to get too far into that stage of my life, but I will say it was very, very common in my small town for people to get married and have babies and get going.
Right at 18. Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. It was very normal and very common.
It happened a lot in New Mexico too.
So when I got connected to the military life and started moving around and meeting a lot of different types of people, I realized standing outside the kindergarten classroom door waiting to pick my kid up that the people in front of me were 5 to 10 years older than me. And so they looked at me differently. Obviously, I was still like a kid to them. And I was a bit of a kid. I was very young, but I could not connect with anybody too much. And so here we are in the opposite end of that, where I'm still youngish. I said ish.
You are young.
And the people my age, their kids are going into high school. So we're still not connecting there. And then the people that are near our kids' ages are in their 50s. And that's a decade older than us.
Right. Well,
and
you.
than me. So it was difficult. So adding that factor to the fact that we were a bit of an island of a family, this I've said, we moved far away and we stayed far away forever. We never went back to like the hometown. And also even though I have this massive family, I was not super close to any of them. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but the point is that it was sort of just us. And then the other person that was connected to my life at that time was gone all the time.
Right.
So we became this little trio, and this little trio was sort of my entire life.
Right. Full-time parent all the time.
Yeah. So going into this, the number one point, which is every family is different, that's one of the main things that made my family different than those of the children's peers or my peers. And I think that's important to kind of lay the foundation of where we're going to move into this conversation. And I think when you start evaluating your life as an empty nester, you have to kind of look at your individual family.
Yes.
And what that structure looks like. Instead of being like all of us that, nope, it's not all of us that do anything. Your specific family is going to be what brings the results of everything else. It's a big deal. It is a huge deal. And you said it, I wrote it down actually, major life changes, major shift in lifestyle schedules, etc. My kids were not my whole life. I worked, I had hobbies, I was a runner, I had a lucrative career, I read books and played the guitar, and I had a life of my own. I had close friends that I would do lunch with, or we did our holidays together and we bring all of our families together and things like that. So they going back to, this is really hard and it's a lifestyle change, and also every family is different. Because we live so far away, there were no grandparents keeping them for a weekend. There was no aunt or uncle showing up to a game.
Yeah, that never happened for either of us.
We grew up in similar ways, you and I. And so, of course, with the other person involved in our lives being gone all the time, it was me. There had to be a face there in the crowd. There had to be somebody there for them. And so that became me. It was, listen, let's just be honest. Even if there were 20 other people in the stands, I never would have missed a game anyway. But I didn't miss a game. I didn't miss a practice. If there was a thing they wanted to do and nobody would volunteer to coach it, teach it, instruct it, I would do it. Shoot. Even as they got older, we homeschooled for a few years so that I could take them places and do things with them and travel.
Right. So you embraced parenting full speed ahead.
They were always with me, is my point to all of that. Always. So you think always into now nearly nothing, right? So it is
A big
possibly the biggest transition of my life, to be honest. Being an empty nester maybe is more of a transition than like having kid number two, to be honest. So it really is an absolute massive deal. It is a big deal and it's a big change. And it is worthy of being acknowledged as such. And I don't think it is. People handle it differently. That's parents and kids, like you and me.
Yeah, we both handle. I mean, we're not clones, right? We interpret the information of the scene that's going on, that's unfolding in front of us, in whatever individual way we're going to.
And you're a really stand up father, despite the fact that everybody's out of the house. On your way home from work every day, you do the rounds where you call each kid.
Yes.
And I've never asked you to do that. I have never once said anything about it. You are a father that needs zero instruction.
I like being a parent.
Yeah. But a lot of fathers are not like you. And I know that in my personal experience. So you do not need your handheld. You don't need somebody to babysit you. But you work really hard to make those very direct connections with every single one of the kids.
Right.
With that said, you're okay with being an empty nester. Going get.
I used to joke when the kids were little that I would tell them, the day you were born was one of the happiest days of my life, and that's when I got to push the start button on the countdown clock.
Stop. I have never in my entire life felt that way. Not one time. I don't know. Some of those teenage years were rough.
Yeah, it's something though that parenting doesn't stop at 18, and it doesn't stop when they move out, right? It doesn't stop when you're an empty nester. It's one of those things where I think I look forward to it because our relationship with our children will evolve into a new type of relationship.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
You're absolutely right.
I like the idea of the kids being adults, handling their own, whatever their career is, being able to make enough money to where we all meet up at a location and do a thing.
And the parents don't have to pay?
Of course not. But I like the idea of the kids getting themselves there, and it's like, hey, we are still a very tight-knit family. We are in a different phase of our life, but they have to move out in order to become who they're going to become those young adults, work hard.
How dare you? How dare you?
They have to.
No, I agree. I really do. I agree. But I do think, obviously the way that you interpret it, process it, handle it is very different than me.
Right.
I cried a lot.
I miss them a lot.
I know you. Each and every one of the children handles it differently.
Yes.
And then each one of them handle it differently with their siblings.
Yeah, it is difficult.
And so you're not only navigating your own feelings as the individual, but then you have to be able to so for example, you are not mourning them. Right. You're not in any sort of stage of mourning. I'm mourning them a little bit. And I know that if you don't understand your spouse well and if you don't communicate well, that could become a point of contention. And that could cause some hard feelings, and it could turn into, why aren't you sad about this? Why doesn't it matter to you?
Why aren't you sad like I'm sad?
Yes. So you have to handle your own feelings. You have to figure out how to communicate and sort of interact with the feelings of your spouse or your partner or whatever. And then you have to be able to interact with each and every child in the way that they are responding back. So it's a lot. I mean, it is a very complex sort of transition into stages.
You have to process the situation, but you also have to find what to look forward to in the future.
Yes, and we will get to that for sure. The one thing that sort of aggravates me, though, I don't appreciate it. And this is one of those things, I've talked about this in the past, about how people have such good intentions most of the time.
Is this unsolicited advice?
It's not only unsolicited advice, but it's like, What are you talking about? You can walk around your house naked. First of all, why does everybody say that?
Yeah.
And
I
second,
like having the windows up and the door open, so that's probably not gonna be the number one first thing to do.
let's be neighbor friendly, family. But they're like, freedom, you're so free. You don't have to run around after anybody. You don't have to take care of anybody. You don't have to finance anybody's whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, that all of that is true and real. Nobody is saying this.
Absolutely.
They're generalizations. They're not real for everybody. They're, like there's my little caveat into it. But for the most part, the women are the nurturers, the kind of full-time carers of the kids. They're more likely to stay at home, all that kind of stuff. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's kind of how it is. And so the idea of thinking, okay, I don't have to help anybody with homework. I don't have to be counsel for anyone because of a bad date.
Right.
I don't have to sit down and go, okay, well, let's take a look at how much money you've spent and how much you still need to have for the rest of the month. Like, let's think about this paycheck. You still have all these things. Like the full on parenting day in, day out is over. We're still parenting all the time. We literally got a call from one of our kids yesterday who is extremely upset about something that was really a 2, even though she felt like it was a 10. So we're still parenting, but that can truly bring on a feeling of uselessness. You're like, well, my husband's a whole grown up. He doesn't need me to look after him. Now, what am I supposed to do with all my time?
I kind of correlate the situation very similar to retiring from a job, from a career.
Ooh, that's a
where
really good way to think about it.
you spend so much of your life dedicated to helping or contributing to some profession, and then at some point you're the oldest person at work, and
You're being phased out.
and they give you your coworkers and colleagues and those close and those who just met you, right? Give you a retirement cake, and they say cheers in your name. They maybe say a couple nice things about you, and then you walk away from it. And then what do you do for the rest of your days, right? So a lot of people that retire have that issue. They feel
more fun series of lives coming in. Yeah. So much to look forward to.
I had a colleague that moved to Florida, and he was going to retire on a beach. And 6 months later, he moved back. He's like, "Be quiet."
Yeah, there's not enough to do, not enough to keep you busy. People are actually statistically retiring later because 1, finances, and 2, they're lonely. So it's interesting that you bring that up. The other thing on here is, now we talked about this in depth over lunch today because we talk about things on another level. But so I'll just touch on it very briefly. But people, when they start shifting into that lifestyle that is kids are out of the house, they're just left alone with their partner, you have to revisit that relationship. Now we are in a different position because been together essentially for 5 years. So we're still, I don't know. It's funny because our 5 years feels like
we're still newlyweds.
We're still newlyweds.
And we make every attempt to humor each other and make each other laugh.
Absolutely. Our life, we're different. We're just different. We just have a different thing going on than a lot of people that we know in a good way.
Right.
But like I said, this isn't just about us. This is about everybody that's cycling into this new stage of life. And you have to revisit your spouse and you have to go, hey, I'm sorry. I couldn't see you through the gaggle of children that was standing between us for 20 years. And now here we are. And do we still like each other? Yeah, I think you're pretty cool, actually. No, you're cool too. Excellent. Do you want to do this thing? No, I hate doing that thing. What? You hate doing that thing? I thought we were going to do a thing together. Not that thing. I hate it. What? How did I never know this? And it's like, it's just one more layer.
Rediscover that best friend.
Yeah, of what you have to do as part of changing this lifestyle. So number 4 is that we are not prepared enough for this.
Do so. Please elaborate.
Well, it's not talked about enough.
right?
Not really, because everything that we've said up to this point proves that this is a physical, emotional, psychological change, and it's happening while so many other things are happening. So, you're getting up in years a little bit. Who is this pod person
Yes.
that has abducted my precious child?
I'd like to say I was a really good teenager, but I know I wasn't.
I
was
don't
not.
remember. So my question is, did I block it out? No, I don't think so. I actually was pretty well behaved because I have all these other siblings and they were being bad enough for all of us. So I don't know, there really wasn't much to get into unless it was the TLC Crazy Sexy Cool CD that I smuggled into my house. I don't want to say I was a rebel without a cause,
You were not a rebel.
because there was a cause, and it was because that was the best album of the 90s.
You had a
But-
hairbrush microphone jumping on your bed.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Anyhow, so,
Maybe.
but yeah,
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
I'll stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. I'm not sure those are the lyrics. No, but so the kids are sort of heinous for a couple of years, and then miraculously toward the end of high school, they sort of chill out. And their hormones all balance out because, like, let's be honest, it's a hormonal roller coaster, and it
Right.
hits at different times for girls and boys. And so their hormones finally balance out, and you're like, thank goodness we can all breathe for a second now, and you're okay, and I'm okay, and we're gonna, put band-aids on the little tiny pinpricks that have been put into this over the last couple of years. And then they leave. You like
Yep.
them again, and then they're like, cool, thanks for everything. See y'all later. We're gonna go to college, trade school, jump into a career, get my own place, run off and join the Peace Corps or whatever they're doing these days. I don't know.
Yep.
I feel like the Peace Corps is going to be trendy again. But then they leave, and I'm like, that is so incredibly rude because
we were friends again.
I just remembered how much I liked you again, and that took some time, but we're not prepared for it. There's the one expression you hear all the time, and it's like, oh, you're going to miss this. One day they're itty bitty babies, and the next thing they're off, and gone. And that's fine to say, but the truth is we are not supporting each other about this topic. And I feel sort of like I'm getting up in arms about it, and I'm like making it into something it's not. But then also there's that part of my head where I'm going, we've been told it's not that big a deal. It's not talked about, it's not discussed, we're not getting support, we're not having any sort of community feel about it with our peers. It's just like in the house and out the house, and it's like walking around naked and be glad they're gone and push the birds out of the nest. And my favorite, if you're not watching the video,
Yeah.
you can't see that I rolled my eyes in the back of my head.
You're pretty much there then.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I do think we should be talking about this more. I mean, we've funneled so much energy and time into how are our kids feeling right now? How are they processing things? How can we get them to the next place safely, emotionally, physically? And then we get to a place where it's like, oh my gosh, my little snow globe world just got flipped over and shook up real good. And now it's all falling around me, and there's nobody in the snow globe but you, and you don't care. So it's like, take that one home with you,
I
folks.
think one of the challenges there is people that you would talk to, right, that have kids, they're probably not experiencing it at the same time you
Yes.
are.
And that a misfit,
Yeah.
I know it's not true. I know there are people that really struggle when their kids leave the house, but nobody else is talking about it. Where are y'all at? I cannot be the only guy out here crying a little. So anyhow, that's for.
Those tears are well earned.
I worked so hard on that.
You did.
I really
You
did.
did. They walk upright, they chew with their mouth full and closed.
I really poured my heart and soul, blood, sweat, tears into raising my family. And so I think it's fair to be sad about it. I really do. And number 5, you'll really like this one because we're going to circle back to a happy place, which is you can get used to pretty much anything.
Resiliency. Resolve.
Yeah. One of the examples I wrote down is no sugar, which I cannot say from firsthand experience
What does that mean?
about what it means to have no sugar, but people that cut something out, no sugar is like an expression for you have completely eliminated something from your life, your diet, your whatever.
Grey's Anatomy. No, it's just something I cut out like
How
forever ago.
much did you watch?
I saw like 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's what
something
I
like
thought.
that. Yeah.
But those that cut no sugar out, these are supposed to be things you like. You know, it's agony for the first while.
Yeah.
Whatever your while is. And it is, you know, it's what you think about all the time. You crave it, you want it, you feel like you're being deprived of something. It feels unfair. I think you can't relate to this like at all. Would you agree? And it's okay.
I can.
Can you? But can you though?
I find that I process things pretty quickly and move forward pretty quickly.
If you say to me, hey, we're not going to do this, well,
Right.
Those are different things. And you have new normals. Now, I do want to say that I know this is supposed to be the happy point, and I'll stick to it for the most part, but I want to say out loud for anybody that's listening that will relate to this. On the days that I am proud of myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm not agonizing over this. I'm not hurting so much. I can't function. Look at me doing new things. Look at me making new strides, moving into this next natural stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel guilty. I'm like, but wait, you're supposed to want them so much. And then on the days that I really, really miss them and feel disappointed that we're not in the same place doing the same things, feel guilty about that too. So I think it just takes a while. And those things will go from happening, 100 times a day. This is what I say about anything bad that's happened to you. And I will die on this hill. Okay. When something really horrible happens, you think about it a million times a day.
Yes, you do.
For several days, for a long time.
For a long time.
And then one day you're only going to think about it 900,000 times. Fast forward many, many, many days, and you only think about it 100,000 times. Fast forward some other days, and you go a whole hour without thinking about it a single time. And then you only think about it the other 23, et cetera, until one day, maybe very, very far in the future, and that's okay, you think about it none. And the next day you go, oh my gosh, I think I went the whole day yesterday without thinking about this terrible thing. So I don't remember what my point was about that, but I feel like it was important to say. What was my point?
Time and healthy habits, healthy lifestyle choices.
Yeah, learning new normals. Yes. And I think the guilt will go away soon. It just takes a little time. But having said all the things that make me sad about like missing moments with them and songs on the radio, and especially living here because we live in Hawaii, there's so many things I wish they could experience every single day with us. That's hard. It's hard to have such a great life without them because guilt. He's gonna have like a whole sentence about it, but just guilt. That's the one.
And realize right now, while we're doing this, they're living.
They're living.
They're doing their life, the life that they wanted to do.
It's an opportunity for everybody. It really is. It's an opportunity for them to experience what it is to be their own individual person, which is something I did not do because I went right out of childhood into a full familial unit and never, which is, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm fine. Some people, they'll pay for that later. I just didn't. I was okay growing up with my kids. I was okay with but they get the chance to do that and figure out who they are and do what they want to do and learn some things the hard way.
Yeah.
But also know that we're right here if they need a little bounce back. Not a lot, but a little bit. And I think they're really good humans for it. So that's the whole thing, I think, to round out the top 5 things I think about when I think about empty nesting. Is that every single family is different. Number 2 is it's a very big deal
Yes.
and it matters. Number 3, people handle it differently, whether it's the children involved or the parents. Number 4, we are not prepared enough ahead of time. We should find our support system.
Talk to people.
Talk to people.
Talk to people.
It'll help. And number 5, it's okay because you can get used to pretty much anything. So that's it for season 3, episode 3.
Very good points.
It was a good one, I think. And honestly, I feel better just having talked about it and kind of working it through in my mind. So do that with the people that you care about, that you trust, that will be good to you. And that's it for now, yeah? So join us next Monday for the next episode of Front Porch Feelings.
Episode 4.
Episode 4, which is a really good one because that one's about relationships. Yeah, you pick the topic for this one. So anyhow, until next time, please take care of yourselves.
And each other.
See y'all later.